Listen closely. Can you feel it? The silence. It is not the peace of slumber, but the hush of a predator's den. Here, behind these gilded walls, every breath is measured, every glance a coded message. No one dares speak above a whisper, for the stones themselves have ears, and tongues that bleed stories. A woman once stood here, perhaps in this very spot where your shadow now falls. Her name? Lost to the chronicles, erased by convenience, but her choice, that is what the walls remember. She was offered a path, the customary path, gilded with promise, veiled in silk, and she, in an act of defiance so profound it echoed through generations yet unborn, dared to utter a single forbidden word. No. That no was a tremor in the very foundation of this dynasty, a challenge to the bloodline, a stain on the inviolable will of power. What became of her? Do you truly wish to know? Her fate became the unwavering law, a law whispered from mother to daughter, from elder concubine to wide-eyed novice. In the harem, there is no exit. There is only a trajectory. Observe the tapestry of power unrolling before us. Each thread a life, each knot a betrayal. For here, the choice is stark, brutal in its clarity. You ascend towards the throne, clawing your way through shadows and poison, or you descend into the abyss of oblivion. There is no other path, no gentle fading, no quiet retreat. This is not a tale spun for tender hearts, dreaming of love's sweet embrace. This is the stark, unvarnished chronicle of survival, etched in the very stone of this empire. And these truths, these chilling echoes of what was and what must be, they were never meant for ears like yours. But the pillars, you see, they tell secrets only to those who truly listen. They arrived. A caravan of fear, bound by circumstance, delivered as tribute or spoils. Young, bewildered, their pasts stripped away like discarded rags on the dusty road. Their eyes, wide with a terror barely contained, saw the towering walls, the gilded gates, and perhaps, for a fleeting moment, imagined a new kind of hell. But what awaited them was far more insidious. Here, within these cloistered chambers, the air hung heavy with the scent of jasmine and ambition. It was a place where thousands of meters of the finest silk did not adorn, but ensnared. It was meant to soothe, to comfort, to whisper promises of luxury and power. It enveloped their bodies, yes, but it also concealed their dread, a shimmering shroud over their rapidly fading memories of freedom. Gold, hammered into intricate patterns on every surface, jewels blazing from every diadem, the intoxicating perfumes of exotic flowers, these were not gifts. They were but the gilded bars of a cage, brilliant to behold, impossible to escape. They entered as captives, as mere property, their very existence defined by the whims of men. But the true terror, the absolute, chilling clarity of their predicament, dawned the moment they were given a new name. Not a sign of liberation, but a brand of ownership. A new identity, meticulously crafted to erase the old, to sever every root that might have anchored them to a life beyond these walls. They were no longer daughters of the steppe, or the sea, or the forest. They were Gulbahar, Mahidevran, Harem, flowers in a garden, beautiful, yes, but cultivated for a singular purpose, their fates entwined with the dynasty itself. This was not a place of open conflict, but of 1,000 quiet battles. Every whispered compliment a potential poison. Every offered favor, a tightening knot on a silken noose. Watch closely, and you would see it in their eyes. The constant vigilance, the calculating glint behind a veiled smile. A fleeting glance from the Sultan, a misplaced word, a minor indiscretion. These were the triggers. The stakes were not merely comfort or affection, but survival. And the greatest weapon in this silent war? Betrayal. It moved through the shadows of the corridors, a cold breath on the nape of the neck, its presence more palpable than any blade. Their purpose, you see, was absolute: to become the vessel, to carry the bloodline forward, to give life to an heir, a son who would secure the future of the empire. This was their raison d'être, the terrifying law of the harem. Every other aspiration, every personal desire, every memory of a life unburdened dissolved into this singular, all-consuming quest. They were but gears in a magnificent, brutal mechanism designed solely to perpetuate power. And if they failed to conceive, or worse, failed to deliver a healthy male child, then their existence, shimmering with temporary favor, could vanish in an instant, like smoke. To live, they had to fight. To fight, they had to understand that the greatest enemy was not always the one with the loudest voice, but the one whose silence held the deadliest intent. They were women, yes, but they were also warriors, forged in the crucible of absolute power. Each breath drawn in these opulent chambers was a testament to a will of steel, or a prelude to a swift, unceremonious end. A golden cage indeed. And the illusion of choice? It was the cruelest deception of all. You think you know games, don't you? Chess, perhaps, with its ordered pieces and predictable moves. But here, within these gilded walls, the true game was played. A game not of wood and ivory, but of flesh and blood. Of destinies woven and unraveled with ruthless precision. This was the stage where life itself was the currency, and every breath drawn, every word spoken or unspoken, was a gamble. Observe closely. Here, a sip of sweetened sherbet could be the last, its delicate flavor masking the bitter kiss of poison. A broken seal on a parchment, a misplaced piece of jewelry, a sudden, inexplicable silence in a crowded room, each a meticulously crafted sentence, a whispered verdict delivered long before the executioner's blade ever gleamed. This was not merely a court, it was a grand theater, where on the illuminated stage, exquisite intrigues unfolded with dazzling grace, all while behind the heavy velvet curtains, cold-blooded murder meticulously sharpened its tools. They arrived, these women, sometimes no older than blossoming flowers, their eyes still holding the wide-eyed wonder of distant villages, their hearts brimming with simple, innocent dreams. Dreams of favor, perhaps, of a sultan's fleeting glance, of children to call their own. But the harem, it was a crucible. It burned away innocence, melted away naivete, and from the ashes forged something far more formidable. It transformed a timid girl into a strategist, a lover into an accomplished poisoner, a quiet observer into an unseen spy. They learned to read the unseen script of power, to decipher the true meaning behind a courtesan's forced smile, to gauge the depth of a rival's despair by the imperceptible trembling of a hand upon a teacup. They mastered the art of listening not to words, but to the sudden, telling silence that descended when a name was uttered, or a rumor passed. Every gesture, every glance, every hurried whisper held a potential key to their survival, or a fatal flaw in their enemy's armor. They learned to anticipate, to predict, to strike with a precision that would make the most seasoned general nod in grim approval. Ambition, raw and unyielding, collided with a reality as unyielding as the palace stone. Here, the struggle was primal, relentless. For a favored position, for a son who might one day wear the crown, for the very continuation of their bloodline, there was no line they would not cross. Do you imagine a mother's love was sacred here? Not always, not when the future of her lineage hung in the balance. A mother might sacrifice a daughter, offering her up as a pawn in the grand game if it meant securing her son's path to the throne. A favored concubine, cloaked in the finest silk and jewels, would not hesitate to orchestrate the downfall of a blossoming rival, all for the fleeting promise of one more night, one more shared glance with the Sultan. Such was the terrifying calculus of the harem. For here, the bloodline was everything, the sacred thread that wove through the very fabric of the dynasty. And for its preservation, for its elevation, any price was deemed acceptable. Poison in the goblet, betrayal disguised as loyalty, the insidious spread of a shadow across a rival's life until they simply ceased to exist. Remember this as you walk through these halls. The most beautiful things often concealed the deepest darkness. The softest silk could hide the sharpest blade, and the sweetest smile, the most venomous intent. This was not a world of escape, but of inescapable consequence, where the only way out was often through the chilling embrace of the grave. The very air around it, thick with the phantom weight of ambition. The throne. It does not merely stand, it watches. Cold, silent, a monument not to power, but to the relentless, consuming hunger for it. Look closely. You see the faint etchings of 1,000 struggles, the invisible scars left by those who clawed and bled and died for its embrace. It is a solitary sentinel, haunted by the very shadows of the dynasty it upholds. Who, then, truly survives in this gilded cage? Not the most beautiful flower in the Sultan's garden, nor the one whose voice carries the sweetest song. Beauty fades, strength can be broken. No, survival here is a colder art. It is the patience of a spider, weaving its web strand by painstaking strand. It is the cunning of a fox, forever discerning the trap hidden beneath the velvet. And above all, it is the quiet, steel-edged ruthlessness that few men, let alone women, dare to acknowledge within themselves. Each victory, you see, is not an escape. It is merely a deeper descent into the labyrinth. Each triumph, a seed sown not of peace, but of a new, more insidious fear. The scent of success in these halls is often indistinguishable from the faint, metallic tang of poison or the lingering whisper of betrayal. The higher one climbs, the thinner the air becomes, the more watchful the eyes that follow every movement. Consider the woman who finally grasps that ultimate power. Her hands, once perhaps soft and eager, now bear an invisible stain, not of ink, but of the silent sacrifices, the calculated cruelties, the necessary evils committed in the dark. Her heart, once beating with the bright pulse of hope, is now a hollowed chamber, echoing only with the relentless drum of paranoia. She believes she has won, that she has claimed her freedom. Foolish thought. She has merely exchanged one gilded cage for another, larger one, a cage of her own making, built from the bones of her rivals and the fragments of her former self. The burden of the bloodline, of its continuation and its ruthless preservation, now rests solely upon her. And sometimes, after the unseen battles have raged and concluded in the hushed intimacy of these chambers, there is nothing left but a solitary fallen object. A piece of silk, perhaps a discarded headscarf, lying forgotten on the marble floor. It is not always a symbol of defeat. More often, it is the sole, eloquent witness to a conflict fought without a single raised voice, a single uttered scream. The outcome decided not by strength, but by wit, by will, by the sheer, unyielding force of a desperate spirit. And then, once the silent victor has departed and the unseen victim has been removed, an absolute, profound silence descends, heavy and complete, until the next chapter inevitably begins. Мы стоим здесь, в этом вечном полумраке древних камней, и начинаем постигать ужасающую простоту закона гарема. Он не был высечен в мраморе, нет, и не был записан на позолоченных свитках, но был безвозвратно впечатан в саму кровную линию османской династии. Его единственное, непреклонное предписание отдавалось эхом в каждой позолоченной палате, через каждый притихший двор. Империя должна выстоять, род должен преобладать, чего бы это ни стоило. Для этой высшей цели любые средства были не просто дозволены, но предписаны силой, куда более древней, чем любой султан. Предательство становилось священным долгом, облаченным в фальшивые улыбки и шепот обещаний. Яд – тихой, действенной молитвой, подаваемой в изящной чаше или вплетенной в благоухающие нити изысканного шелка.
Здесь, внутри этих стен, не было места для легкомысленных различий между добром и злом. Подобные понятия принадлежали миру, далекому от холодного, безжалостного расчета выживания. Это была высшая игра королев, играемая не за короны, но за само дыхание наследника, за продолжение целого мира. Из этой безмолвной, всепоглощающей системы не было никакого выхода. Ни для избалованной наложницы, мечтающей о взгляде султана, ни для царственной матери, обнимающей своего сына, ни даже для самого султана, навсегда скованного ее невидимыми цепями. Его истинная власть заключалась не только в великолепной дуге его ятагана, но и в невидимом, неумолимом течении этого закона, что управлял каждым сердцебиением, каждым вздохом. Он продолжал править, chilling hum beneath the palace floors, long after its architects had crumbled to dust, their names lost to the ages. И эти вечные стены до сих пор хранят его неизгладимый отпечаток. Каждая тень хранит тайну, каждое молчание — приговор. Они эхом отдаются его глубокой, ужасающей истиной. Тень, молчание, кровная линия, династия.